Okay, we are live. Um, Thank you for everybody that has registered and has signed up for this webinar today. Please make sure that you keep an eye out on the Facebook group Singing Tips. It's a private group. Keep out for any information, have a look at the page, and just get updated about lots of the information that will be taking place in future webinars on that Facebook page. So basically from now on, that Facebook page is going to be closed, as you can see, and it's literally just for those people who are members of that group, okay? So I'd like to first of all welcome you to the first Singing Tips group webinar. Yay! This is the first time I've ever done anything like this. So, you know, it's brand new. We're just making sure that we tried lots of different things to keep in touch with people around the world. So let me know your thoughts after this webinar on whether it was useful to you or not, anything that we could do better, etc., etc. It'll be good to know how many people are actually attending the webinar right now. So, you know, feel free to drop me a little note just to tell me where you're from. That would be really awesome to find out where you're from, okay? So basically, first of all, thank you once again for registering. I hope you enjoy this webinar. What I'm doing is I'm basically taking some questions about singing. You know, some of the questions that you guys have given us on the Facebook group. And I'm basically going to try and take it one by one and see if we can help you answer some of these questions and offer you some help with your own singing, okay? So what I'll do before I actually start answering the question, the first question that we've picked today, which is a very common question. So we're looking at all the different questions and we're trying to pick the most important ones, meaning the ones that many people are sort of asking about. So there's a particular question about cracking, when the voice cracks. So this has been a very common question, and we're going to look at basically answering that today. Hi, Davinia. Nice to see you. Welcome, everyone. Just come in and just let us know who you are. Let us know where you're from. That would be awesome. Thank you very much for posting that there. Okay, so before I get into the actual question, what I'd like to do is start off with a bit of philosophy, okay? So I'm going to share something with you right now, and please let me know whether you can see it or not, okay? So here we go. All right, can you see that? Can you tell me if you can see that, yes or no? Someone write there for me whether they can see that. It says, if you want to sing as a career, 6 Ps. Can you all see that? Okay, let's try this. Okay, can you all see that? Yes? Okay, I take that as a yes. I'm hoping that you can still hear my voice as well. So for those of you that are looking to take singing a little bit more seriously, you know, this is some philosophy for you, because I think you've got to kind of look at your life and your circumstances and where you are and kind of make decisions on what you really want to do, okay? So, so basically, if you love singing, then sing no matter what. Sing, sing, sing. Doesn't matter if people don't want you to sing. Doesn't matter if people tell you you're rubbish. Doesn't matter if you think you're not as good. If you enjoy it and it's something that gives you pleasure, do it. Okay, particularly where singing is concerned. It can't hurt anyone, right? So if you enjoy singing, that's a good place to start. I always say, in terms of like what you're going to do in life, it's a good thing to start with what you love. So if you love singing, then that's a great place to start. The second thing is, if you are serious about singing and you're serious about being great at singing, then it's very, very important for you to acquire discipline. So important for you to be disciplined. Discipline is the key to greatness. If you are serious about singing as a career, then you've got to be disciplined. How many of you practice? How many of you have a solid practice routine that is implemented every day? All right, you've got to look at it like that. If you're going to be serious at taking singing as a career, then you really want to be disciplined. Okay, now there are 6 things that you need to be aware of, or you need to think about if you're really going to take singing seriously as a career. And as you can see, they are right there on the screen. They are: number 1, have a plan, right? Have a vision. Everything starts from a thought. Everything. Doesn't matter what it is. Even this computer that we're all looking at right now. Everything in life starts with a thought. So make sure that you have a plan. If you're destined, or if you really want to be a singer, have a plan, have a vision. That vision could be, I want my voice to be like this. I want it to be this strong. I want to be able to sing this high. I want to be able to go down and sing R&B, or I want to be able to sing jazz, or I want to go and get a record deal. Whatever it is, just have a plan, okay? Then, obviously, have passion. You've got to have passion for what you want to do. There's no point doing something that you hate. So have a passion, because you know what? Sometimes in music, you don't earn any money. You know, sometimes as a singer, you're not going to get paid for things. It's a passionate business. It's something that you go in not for the money. You go in it because you love it and because you're passionate about it. And sometimes you're going to get rejected, and sometimes you're going to not get paid, and sometimes you know you're going to feel terrible about yourself and all that kind of stuff. But if it's in your blood, if you have a passion for it, then you know what? You'll succeed. Next thing is practice. Practice, 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 practice. Make sure you practice. You've got to practice, people. It's very, very important that you practice. I can't really say much about that. If you're not practicing your singing as a gift, if you're not practicing as a discipline, then don't expect to get better. You've got to practice, okay? Then you need patience. You absolutely 110% need patience. Sometimes when you're working on your voice, you've got to be patient, because it's muscles and ligaments and tendons and things like that, nerves that you're dealing with, and you can't rush these things. So you've got to have patience with yourself. I know that sometimes as singers, we're a bit of perfectionists. We like things to be absolutely perfect, but they're not always going to be perfect straight away, guys. So have patience with yourself. The next thing is be persistent. Keep trying. If it doesn't work, keep trying again. Knock on the door. If that person didn't give you the audition, go to another audition. Keep studying. Keep being persistent. Never give up. Okay, very, very important thing as a musician. And then perseverance. Perseverance is the quality of saying, you know what, I've tried and tried and tried. I did my best. I got rejected, but you know what? I love it so much, I'm going to keep trying. And you keep going, and you keep trying to be the best you can, and you keep going for those opportunities. That's what perseverance is. It's a long-term thing. It means you've made up your mind that this is what you want to do, and you're going to go for it. Okay? So those are the 6 things that you need to think about, and you need to embody if you're serious about having singing as a career. Okay, so I'm going to turn this bit off, and here we are. Can you see me again? Cool. Now, don't fret if you've missed the first part of what's happened. Don't worry about it. This webinar is actually going to be available on YouTube straight after the time is done. So I will forward everybody that has attended or registered for the webinar. I will forward you a link, and it's going to be a link to this video so that you can see it on replay. So if you have missed a bit, don't worry about it. It's going to be available to you on replay. Okay, so now I'm going to get on with answering the first question. And the first question is from Mr. Sharik Hassan. Congratulations to you. Your question was great. And actually, there were quite a few questions that were like this. So that's why we've picked this question. I've got a team of guys that look through the questions and they go for the most common questions. And the question was this: I want to learn how to sing high notes. Who doesn't? When I sing high, my voice cracks. Can you suggest what I can do? So I'm pretty sure there are many singers in your shoes, Sharik, and it's a very good question, and I've decided that this is the first question I'm going to answer. So before I can really answer that question though, there's certain things that we have to think about first. One thing we have to think about first is the vocal function. How this voice, this thing called the voice, actually works. And it's so important to understand how it works, because when you understand how something works, you can actually control it and manipulate it and do what you need to do with it, but only when you understand how to use it and how it works. So that's the first stage. We're going to look at how the voice actually functions properly and how it works, okay? And then we're going to the second thing, which is your voice type. So what kind of voice you might have. This is so important, because once you know what kind of voice type you are, you will know the kind of exercises and routines and scales that you need to give your voice in order for it to work well. Now, what are we talking about? We're talking about exercising. What does that mean? Well, we're going to look at the first thing about exercising, or one of the most common tools used in exercising the voice, and that is scales. Okay, so have a look at this little thing here. I'm going to share my screen again. Come back to this. Here we go. Okay, I'm hoping you can all see that. Okay. If you can't see it, just let me know. I'll give it a second. I know there's a bit of a delay, so I'll give it a second. Hopefully you can see that. All right, so scales. Scales are the dumbbells of vocal exercises, okay? Initially, they are used to help the voice understand the correct form, meaning the function, how it should work accurately and efficiently. And then scales help guide the voice into the right coordination. See, singing is about the breath coordinating with the vocal folds, coordinating with the mouth, coordinating with your body. It's all those things having to synergize and coordinate and work together. So scales help you to get your body working together more accurately. And then once it started working accurately and working together, then those scales are also designed to increase the strength of your voice and also sustain your voice over long periods of time. Okay, so I'm not sure if you all saw that, but here it is. So again, I'll repeat that. Scales are the dumbbells of vocal exercises. Okay, so initially, they are used to help your voice understand the correct way to work, the correct form, and then they help guide the voice into the right coordination. So your body has to work with your breath, with your vocal folds, with your mouth, and it all has to work together in an efficient way. Scales help you to get the whole system working efficiently and working in a coordinated way. And then scales are designed to increase the strength of your voice and sustain your voice. So sustain means, you know, sometimes you do a gig or you do a recording and your voice gets tired after half an hour and you're like, wow, you know, well, scales help your voice to build strength and to sustain over longer periods of time as you use it. So it means you can use your voice in the same way, but you can go a little bit longer, maybe an hour, maybe 2, maybe 3 hours, you know, without your voice getting tired. It doesn't matter what you do with your voice will eventually get tired of something, even talking. Your voice eventually gets tired of talking. It's normal, okay? Your voice isn't going to talk. I used to work in a call center back in the day when I was studying and going to university and stuff. And I used to work in a call center. And in this call center, it was a lot of talking, you know, and a lot of the time I would come out of there hoarse. My voice would be hoarse because, you know, we're talking for 4, 5, 6 hours. Even when I drank water, you know, it would still be hoarse, you know. So your voice is always going to get tired after a certain period of time. But scales and exercises actually help your voice to last longer as you use it, okay? Obviously, things like sleeping properly is important. Water is important. Scales and exercises, keeping your body healthy, a good lifestyle. So not drinking all the time, right? Drinking alcohol all the time, but maybe being a little bit careful with how you drink. And things like coffee and tea, they can dry out and dehydrate the voice. So again, you've got to think about your water intake. There's so many things to consider here. So when I answer this question, you've got to also be able to put all those other things into consideration. Are you drinking enough water? Are you exercising regularly? Is it consistent? Are you really challenging yourself? Are you doing things in a healthy way? So we'll look at the voice function first, okay? So this is simply how your voice works. So you have a set of muscles that live inside this thing here called a larynx, okay? So sometimes we call this the Adam's apple for short. But inside your Adam's apple, you actually have a set of muscles called vocal folds. And those vocal folds have to close in order for you to hear sound, okay? So the principle is 2 things, no matter what they are, have to come together and close in order for you to hear sound. So whether it's this, whether it's that, doesn't matter what it is, 2 things have to first come together in order for you to hear sound, okay? And then what you then get is that sound is amplified or it's projected through the mouth. Now, your air with which you breathe is always doing its thing. Breathing is assisted and is organized and maintained by the use of the diaphragm. So it's something that you don't really need to think about. Breathing, for most parts, is something that is quite involuntary and is something you don't need to think about, okay? So the air that you breathe with, it has to connect with your vocal cords. So it comes from up through your lungs, it hits your vocal cords, and then your vocal cords start to vibrate, okay? And when your vocal cords start to vibrate, they create a sound wave. That sound wave comes out through your mouth, and that's what everybody hears as sound. Now, I love this bit. If I was to take off your head for a second, just for a second, I'll put it back. So take off your head. And if we were to listen to your vocal cords working or your vocal folds working, they would sound a little bit like this. They'd sound a little bit like that. Why? Because essentially the vocal folds, when they engage with the air, it's just 2 bits of flesh flapping together. That's all it is. Now, if I put your head back, your head and your body starts to resonate or amplify that vibration. It starts to amplify it. And so we get something that is known as tone. And that's why everybody's tone is so different, because we are all made differently. So think of a trumpet. If I take the mouthpiece of a trumpet off the trumpet and I blow, I'll get something that's similar to that. The minute I put it on the body of the trumpet, I get a bam, bam, I get a more resonant sound, right? Now, depending on the size of that body, I will get a different sound. If I get a trumpet that is slightly smaller, I'll get a higher sound. If I get a trumpet that is slightly bigger, I'll get a lower or deeper sound. That's why a tuba, see how big a tuba is? It's so big, but it's one of the more bassier instruments, whereas a trumpet is a lot smaller and so can access higher notes more easily. Okay, so that's why male voices and female voices are so different, because in the female voice, the actual vocal fold and the larynx is a lot smaller. So that's why females can sing higher, whereas in males, the vocal folds and the larynx are slightly bigger. So of course, we are able to sing lower notes more effectively. Now, as your voice starts to vibrate, as your vocal folds start to vibrate and the air is passing through, it's very important that your vocal folds learn to resist air. Yes, they have to learn to hold air back. So if we use my lips as an example again, my lips are going to hold back the air that I'm pushing out. Okay, so here we go. Here's the pressure, and here's my lips holding it back. Yeah, so my lips have to kind of resist in order for that vibration to happen, right? Well, that's exactly what's happening here. So as the air is coming up, the vocal folds have to close and resist. And you get that initial vibration and it comes in cycles, and that cycle is what we hear as sound. Okay, so it's very, very, very important to understand that. Now, as a singer, you're in control of three main things. Guess what they are? One, your air. You are in control of your air. So check this out. I love this exercise here. Here's some tissue, because I get a lot of people saying to me, well, how do I control my air? Well, this is how you control your air. I'm going to blow the tissue. Okay, here we go. Pretty easy. Now, I'm going to blow the tissue again, and hopefully the tissue is not going to move. Okay, watch. Okay, right? How did I do that? It's so simple. In the first instance, I allowed or gave myself more air. I blew more air out. And in the second instance, I held back my air. I am in control of that as a singer. You are in control of that as a singer. It's dead simple. You either want more air when you're singing a phrase, or you don't want. So you either add more or you hold it back and give less. You are in control of that. Okay, so you've got to learn to manage that. And there's some great breathing exercises that we'll get into in later webinars. That's one. The second thing that you control as a singer is, we've just talked about it, your vocal folds. How? Okay, well, since they have to close in order for you to hear sound, you are in control of how much they close or how little they close. So you either close it this much, and you can try and do that like a little crackle on the voice. Try it. You're in control of that. Or you can have it really, really compressed. So imagine that you are on the toilet doing a poo. Yes, I said it, poo, right? So imagine doing this. All right, so that tension that you can feel, you're in control of that. So with your vocal folds, you are in control of how much compression or how little compression you need. That's such an important part of the whole singing system that a lot of people miss, okay? And then the other thing that you're in control of, the third thing, guess what it is? Yes, your mouth. I can either talk like this and I can sound like this, or I can talk like this and I can sound like this, or I can talk like this and I can sound like this. But can you see that the use of my mouth actually changed the sound significantly? So surely it plays a big part in the singing process, surely. Of course it does. So just to recap, you're in control of how much air you use. You're in control of your vocal fold closure or the vocal fold compression. And you're also in control of the shape of your mouth or the shape of your vowels, essentially. Okay, so that's very important for you to understand. Obviously, with the vocal folds, there are a set of muscles that are playing together. Now, I'm not going to complicate it, but it's something like this. And we'll go deeper later on in future webinars. You have two sets of muscle groups that have to work together in your vocal cord area. One set of muscles are responsible for tension or responsible for creating that big, thick, strong sound that we hear. Sometimes when you are yelling, hey, you know, that big sound that we can sometimes get. Well, there's a set of muscles responsible for that. And there are also a set of muscles that are responsible for taking your voice higher and higher and giving you higher pitches. I said pitches. I said pitches. I said pitches. I said. Yeah. So you've got these two different muscle groups working together. One set of muscles responsible for giving you that strong sound, giving you strong tone, and giving you that thickness that you can hear in a voice. And then there's another set of muscles that are responsible for stretching the cords and going higher and higher and higher and higher
19 hours
in pitch. Okay? These two different muscle groups have to work together. Now, this is what's happening when your voice cracks. So here's the real answer to the question. When your voice cracks, this is what's going on. The muscles that you use naturally for sounding strong and the muscles that you use for singing higher, they don't work as smoothly together as they should. So what happens is that the muscles that are responsible for that strong sound do this. As you're singing higher, the muscles that are responsible for the strong sound have to learn to let go so that the muscles responsible for singing high can take over. But what sometimes happens is the muscles that are responsible for giving you that strong sound, they hold on a bit too long and a bit too long and a bit too long. And eventually they have to let go anyways. Ah! And then the other muscle group takes over. But by that point, it's too late. So what you hear is this abrupt change in the sound, this crack in the voice. So it kind of feels like, yeah, or, yeah, and we get that crack in the voice. So what's happened is those tension muscles, or those strong muscles that are responsible for giving us that strong tone, they hold on a bit too long. And the other muscle groups can't let go, a bit like a relay race, you know, when they're running and they hand the baton to the other runner. Yeah, sometimes this runner here doesn't hand over well enough and they're holding on, and then before you know what, they've fallen over or something like that. So what's got to happen is this group of muscles, the tension muscles, have to let go so that the stretching muscles can do it and go up smoothly. So you get something a little bit more like this. Rather than yeah, I'm sure we've all been there. All right, so that's what's happening when we crack. Now let's move on to point number 2. What voice type are you? This is so important because this will help us get the right exercises in order for you to find the smoothest way to go from one place in your voice to another. And when you are practicing this daily, your muscles will start to remember, or they will start to get through that area more easily. I just noticed Jennifer's here. Hi. I hope this is helping you guys. Okay, cool. So, what voice type are you? So, I'm going to show you the 4 common voice types. And I want you to try and identify what kind of voice you have. So the voice type is just a way of saying what your body tends to do when you're singing a song. Okay? It will do one thing more than another sometimes, or sometimes it will be absolutely fine, and that's okay. The point is, whatever voice type you are, there is a solution that can help you. That's the positive thing. So, I'm going to demonstrate all the 4 voice types, okay? And I want you to have a think about what voice type you think you are, okay? So I'm going to play a scale, and I want you to imagine that this scale is somebody singing a song, okay? So, the first voice type, the singer comes and sees me and they sound like this. Ma 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 ma. Can you hear all that? Listen. Ma 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 ma. So what can you hear? A lot of breath, very, very little presence, very, very little power, very, very little of anything apart from breath, really. No matter how much that singer tries to sing louder, they can't seem to sing louder. They can't get more power. It's just breathy all the time. And the reason this is because, yes, there's too much air coming out, but there's also not enough of that closure. Yes, the vocal fold compression, where the vocal cords have to resist in order for sound to be created. So instead of them staying closed, they're a bit too open, and so all the air that you're breathing with anyway comes out too much in the sound. So your audience just hears breath. Now that is okay if you are doing something stylistic and you mean to do that, it's all right. But if just from a technical point of view, If you can't actually make your voice any stronger, then that's not good. Okay? Here's the second voice type. Is this you? Ma 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 ma. Oh. Ma 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 ma. One more. Ma 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 ma. All right. So can you hear that flip in the voice? How many of you are like that? What's happening there? Again, remember we were talking about the tension muscles and the stretching muscles. That handover from one muscle group to the other isn't smooth enough. Okay, so maybe that's you. Here's another voice type, the third one. This one is interesting. Have a listen. Ma 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 ma. Ma 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 ma. Oh my Lord. Ma 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 ma. How many of you sound like that? How many of you get to the high notes and it sounds like a cat is literally being strangled? Right? So some of us are in that situation as well. What is happening there? Well, remember the tension muscles and the stretching muscles? Okay. Again, the tension muscles are holding on too long. And it's just getting more and more tense because they need to let go so that the stretching muscles can take over more smoothly, but they're not letting go. And so you're dragging all this weight. The cords are still really thick and they're going up and up, and they should be stretching and getting thinner, but they're not. They're still staying thick and weighty, and the voice can't cope with it. And then eventually it either cuts out or it cracks. Okay? Here's the fourth voice type. Ma 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 ma. Ma 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 ma. Ma 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 ma. Ma 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 ma. And so forth. So that fourth voice type was much smoother. The tension muscles and the stretching muscles were kind of playing nicely together, and they were handing over from one to the other really smoothly. Okay, well, as smooth as I could get it today. So that's what we all want to try and do. That's where we want to be when we're singing anything. We want the voice to pretty much sound like it's the same voice all the way up and all the way down, without any sort of too much breath coming out, or without any breaks or cracks or anything like that, any complications. We just want it to be nice and smooth. Does that make sense? Okay, so those are the four voice types. You have to ask yourself, which one are you? That's a very important one. When you know which one you are, it is very, very then easy to create a set of exercises that helps your voice type, because everybody's problem is different. Okay, so when it comes to high notes and singing high notes, rather than which is just breathy, yes, it's high, but there's no tone there, or which is just not going to happen. Or something like that. Or 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 should I go higher? Or One more. Right. So when it comes to singing those high notes, and especially super high notes, like those ones, it's very, very important. You can see me concentrating when I'm doing it. I'm literally saying to myself, okay, how much air do I need? Because it's one of the three things I control. If I do too much, it's going to blow the whole thing apart. If I support it with the right amount of air, my vocal folds will hold together and will stay closed. I'm also concentrating on the compression of my vocal folds. I want them to stay closed. Even though they're stretching, I don't want them to be over closed and over tense. I don't want them to be too unpressed or uncompressed. I want them to be compressed or closed with the right amount of closure. That's important, and it's great to know that we as singers can control that. And then you saw the shape of my mouth, right? Imagine if I tried to sing that high note like this with a closed mouth. Is it really going to work? No. I have to open my mouth in order for me to have that sound resonating in the right way. It's so important. So that's what I was trying to do as I was singing higher. And that's the best way to learn how to handle high notes. You've got to be able to manage those three things: the mouth, the shape of the vowel, the vocal fold compression or the vocal fold closure, and how much breath you are using. It's so important. And the scales, which are the dumbbells for voice training, which are your exercise. It's like a gym for the voice. The voice needs to go into a gym and work out. The scales are the way that you take your voice to the gym. Isn't that cool? And you don't have to pay to go to the gym or to this gym. You've just got to get the right exercises. Sometimes you might need to see a vocal coach, and they give you the right exercises that you can work on that can make your voice stronger, more durable, and sustain longer activities. Does that make sense? Right, I'm gonna open it up. I'm gonna open it up to some questions, just a few questions before we start to wrap up. But I just want to confirm that this webinar, if you've missed some of it, it's going to be available on replay. So I'll be sending you all a link to the webinar so that you can get to see it again if you've missed some of it. It's just I'm answering questions one by one. So the next webinar is actually going to be on the 4th of May. And we'll figure out the right time. It might be around 6:30 again, or I'll try and find a better time that suits everyone. And we're going to be looking at some more questions that are posted on the Facebook group, Singing Tips. So if you're not part of that group, it's a private members only. You can request that we add you, and we will add you. But post all your questions on the Singing Tips Facebook group. You can find it on Facebook. It's called Singing Tips. You'll find it on there. If you can't find it, get in touch with me on Facebook. I'm mad about the voice, and I will add you to the group. But post all your questions there, and what we'll do is we randomly select the ones that we feel are the most common questions, and we do our best to answer them. Sometimes I'll bring in a specialist that will deal with specific things. It might be to do with style, it might be to do with vibrato, it might be to do with whatever. But we're going to really do our best to answer every single question that you put on that group, okay? So look out for the date, put it in your diary, 4th of May, probably around the same time. And if you like some of the information that we're sharing and I'm sharing on here, please don't forget to leave a comment on the Facebook group, okay? So does anyone have any further questions before I kind of go into it and wrap up the webinar? Does anyone have any questions at all? Let's see. Joy saying, which voice type am I? Well, you heard the 4 voice types, Joy. So try and think about which one you are, 1, 2, 3, or 4. Which one did you think you were? Tell me, let me know. Post it on there. Jennifer, when I try to hit high notes, voice gets cracked and I don't have enough breath control. Please help with this. Okay, great. So it's kind of very, very common, one of the common questions that we've kind of answered already. So if your voice is cracking, it could be down to the fact that those tension muscles are just holding on a bit too long and going a bit too high to make those high notes. And what needs to happen is they need to start to let go and let the stretching muscles take over. So essentially, what you could do is you could do some exercises to start to train the voice to learn how to go from one end of the range to the other in a way that is smooth and in the way that is kind of gentle and effortless. One of the best exercises to feel this effortlessness is called a lip trill. I love this exercise. I live by this exercise. I've pushed my range higher with this exercise, and it's such a good one. If you are feeling the crack in your voice, start to try an exercise like this. So I'm going to demonstrate it for you. This is a lip trill. You take 2 fingers, lift the weight of the cheeks up, and you go. And once you put it to some music, this is what it sounds like. Can you see that? Okay, so now I'm going to do a longer scale. Right? So that lip trill, oh my goodness, it's a lifesaver. It's such a good exercise because you start to feel just the kind of tiny, thin way that the voice likes to go from one end to another. It's not about trying to get power. It's not about trying to be like extravagantly loud or anything. It's just about getting from one side to another smoothly. And that lip trill is a fantastic exercise to feel or to get the muscles, getting that muscle memory as to how to sing from one place to another. If you don't know how to do the lip trill, because it's a bit complicated, try just practicing it for a little bit to see if you can get the lips vibrating. If you really can't, and you tried and you really can't, you could try a tongue roll, which is a similar exercise. I like to call it the tiger exercise. But you could do a tongue roll in the same way. One more. That's a really good exercise again, just to feel that voice going smoothly from one end to another. Don't worry about little mistakes when you're making these exercise work. Don't worry about them. You need to be able to make mistakes in the first place because it's how you're going to learn. So don't worry about mistakes. Just try and get that feeling of not feeling like it gets too tense as you're singing high, but there's a bit more of a smoother feeling as you're getting higher. Now, failing those two, if you can't do those two, there's some other exercises that you can do. Here's one that you can do. You can go using the vowel oo. You can go oo. You can do that, or you can go oo again and stick G in front of it. Goo, 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 note that I'm not going goo, 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 goo. I'm not doing that. Or I'm not going goo, 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 and letting all that breath out. Or goo, 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 goo. I'm not doing that either. You're using the G properly. Why? Because the G helps with the chord closure that we were talking about. So you don't really need to think about the chord closure. You just need to say the letter G properly. G. That's all you need to do. And say it like you mean it. G. There's a proper G, right? And then the U is a nice vowel because it has a lot more of that, what we call headier resonance, okay? You will hear the terms head voice and chest voice mentioned a lot, and we will get into what those actually are. But the U feels like it's a lot more up here, whereas a vowel like ah feels more like it's down there. Even if I try to do oo louder, it still feels like it's more heady than it does chesty, okay? So having a good oo vowel can help you. And if you stick a G in front of that, goo, 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 and I'm using that G well, I'm really saying it. Also, you'll notice that my jaw, remember you control your mouth, you'll see that my jaw and my mouth is moving up and down. Look. Goo, 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 goo. And that way you can start to see how well your voice does from going from one place to another. The other thing that I'm making sure I'm doing is I'm making sure that I'm breathing comfortably. I'm not trying to over breathe, and I can't anyway because the G won't let all that air just kind of come through if I'm saying it properly. So it's very important that you really make sure that the chord closure is in place. Say the G well. The mouth shape is being activated, and you've got a nice oo, and your breath should kind of just regulate itself. So that's a great way to try and train your voice how to sing into those higher notes more effectively and a lot easier without cracking. Remember, the crack is just when those tension muscles hold on a bit too long, and they don't hand over to the stretching muscles until a lot later. And what it needs to do is kind of hand over to those stretching muscles a bit sooner so that there's a smoother transition from one muscle group to the other. That's actually what's happening in there. Even though you can't see it, we feel it, but that's actually what's happening. Does that make any sense to anyone at all? Give me a yes or a no. Did that help? Didn't that help? Did that go right over your head? Did it kind of make sense? Either way, you're going to have this available on replay, so you're able to look over it again and again and again if you need to. All right, so don't worry if it kind of went over your head. You can digest it, and you can even try some of these exercises. So let me go through one that I really like. So I really like this one. It's that goo again, but I like doing it with a shorter scale sometimes. Goo, 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 goo. Goo, 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 goo. So you can copy this. Make sure you're saying that G. Make sure you're using your jaw, and you've got that nice ooh shape in the mouth. Goo, 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 goo. Goo, 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 goo. Now, as I get higher, I'm actually employing a kind of hootier sound. So that hooty sound is a bit like, you know, when you're in a party and someone puts on a really cool song and you're like, woohoo! And we kind of naturally do that. Well, that part of my voice, I'm using it more. So we don't want that goo to go goo, 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 goo. Yeah? and all those tension muscles get involved again. We want that woo sound. So you get a goo, 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 goo. Goo, 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 woo! There it is. Goo, 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 goo. So as I get higher and higher, I'm actually using more of that hootia, or like I like to call it, the party sound, placed in my voice, just so that it can resonate better and that I'm not tensing all those muscles in my throat. Okay, so guys, I hope that has helped. I hope it's helped you. Feel free to go over the replay. I'll make sure I send you the link. Don't forget, go to the Facebook page, Singing Tips group, and post all your questions on there. The next one will be on the 4th of May, and I'll be doing my best to basically answer some of those questions. Thank you for all of you for coming and for attending. Really, really lovely. Thank you for the messages on there. That's really cool. I will send you all an email, and hope that this helped. Okay? See you later, and God bless you.